Welcome to an unusual but hopefully informative Ixie Studios production. I'm Ichida Zeal,
I'm Ransack.
and the two of us attended the Nintendo Switch Tour promotional event here in Toronto on Sunday, the 29th. And we're here to just give you our thoughts while you're watching photos and videos of our visit. So, first off, we're going to talk about the event itself. So the two of us got up at balls in the morning. You got up slightly earlier than I did.
Yes, by like half an hour.
Yeah. So we were pretty much left my place at 6 o'clock and headed downtown. Luckily, traffic was thin because it's 6 a.m. on a fucking Sunday. And
Like normal people.
yeah. And luckily, you had the very smart idea of when I saw the line, pull over and you jump out and get in line.
Yeah, that saved us.
That was probably the best idea you had all morning. Through some reconfiguration of the line once we were there, we ended up pretty much number 3 and 4 at the front of the line, which was kind of miraculous. The event itself was at the Metro Toronto Convention Center, the North Building in Hall A. So anyone who's been to Fan Expo will know the building well. The event was actually a pretty small and confined space. Like it was one of those. It would look like a booth at like PAX or something, except it's usually a lot more open concept where you can walk in and out from any direction. Whereas this preview event was sort of boxed in with one entrance. It was done up very much like a show at a convention, where like lights and sounds and booths and tables and displays and a guy up on stage shouting at us every 5 minutes.
No, it was good. It was very well presented for what little that quote unquote little they had.
Yeah, like I said, it was very put together just like it would be at a gaming convention.
I was actually quite surprised. Like after what the morning felt like this very like slapped together, everyone doing the best they can. They sort of revealed it to be this very over the top. Like we walk up the escalator when it's finally time to go into the showroom, and we're all just going up, and I hear all this cheering and this noise and this carrying on coming from the room, and I'm sitting there going, well, wait a minute, if we're out here, then who's in there? And you go in, and there's just 50 reps, this MC shouting at us, and fucking a guy dressed up as Mario dancing around the stage area.
I didn't even see him until like after when they started playing Just Dance, because I caught some video of the Mario dancing along just off stage with the people that they got up playing the game.
Yeah, but no, it was just totally, and like everything was very well displayed. You could see exactly where everything was. As soon as I walked in, I knew where each and every game was.
Yeah,
it was very well laid out.
They did a very good job of putting signs over everything.
Yeah.
There were smaller booths set up in the middle where they had a couple seats and a couple systems set up to play each game. So there was about room for about at least 8 players per game to be playing at one time. And then they had the bigger, more important games sort of lined up in bigger, more complicated displays along the perimeter. And like I said, I was very impressed with the setup. It was very easy to navigate. At every time I finished something, I'm like, okay, that's over there. Let's go there next.
The one thing I was disappointed when I saw it, because I saw it and I was very excited to see it, and then I was disappointed by the reality of it, and that was Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
There was a very, very big display pushing Super Mario Odyssey, and like no such tech demo to speak of, even if it was just running around New Donk City.
It was literally just a screen playing the trailer, and then this little setup where they had a giant like molding of the hat from the game that you and I each had pictures taken with.
Yes, as seen here. I was just disappointed that it was just. I don't want to say it was a waste of space, but I just kind of like. You must have had every game you had to show on display because there was something that could have gone here.
Yeah. I like to imagine that they had that setup like well planned, and they probably had the exact same setup at every location they went to, which some
Sure.
places may not have had as much space as the hall we were in.
And it's Mario. They have to
Yeah,
show it off.
yeah. So that's pretty much the presentation of the event. It was really great. Let's talk about the Switch hardware itself.
Which was actually the number one reason I was there.
Of course,
The way
for
I
me it
was,
was
the way I,
sorry, for me specifically it was the Joy Cons, but we'll talk about each part as we go.
no, sure, but like when I was thinking about going in the first place, I said, sure, I want to try all these games. Why wouldn't I want to try the games? The games are what I'm going to be investing in once I have this thing in my hand. But we've just had this wealth of information thrown at us that it's just so much to digest that I'm just kind of like, you tell me about these 6 different controller schemes, however many there actually are, that I have no real gauge of what's what. That to actually have it in your hand is just
Yeah, for us,
leagues ahead of information for you.
this was definitely more about having it in our hands and conceptualizing how real it was. Using it as a TV console is pretty straightforward. There's really not much to talk about in terms of the TV mode itself. That's more of a discussion about the controllers. So it's pretty straightforward. It's like as advertised. You just plop it in the dock and it connects and charges the tablet while putting out to a TV. The dock has USB ports, as you can see from pictures of it. There was some talk of Ethernet adapters for it. I believe there was information put out that they're actually going to be releasing an official USB Ethernet adapter.
Yes.
And of course, anyone who has their own, I imagine any other non-Nintendo brand one will probably be compatible. So you could probably
They
pick
worked
one up
on the
pretty
Wii
cheap.
U, and Nintendo said most third-party adapters are also going to work because it's an Ethernet port. It's not very special at all.
Exactly. So if Nintendo puts out their official one and it's a little pricier than what you could find at, say, Canada Computers, your options are open.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to seeing perhaps more USB peripherals that use the dock. I don't know what possibilities that could put forth, but we'll see what they come up with in the future.
Well, obviously stuff like fight sticks if they really want to try and push forward in that market, but
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
I'm pretty sure I saw there were some leaked documents regarding Switch peripherals and accessories, and I'm pretty sure there was something about a fight stick.
There was. Considering all the it was an accessory catalog leaked about a bunch of Hori products.
Yeah.
So the aforementioned one, it will be I think it's a Hayabusa 4 for the Switch.
All right, so we definitely have something happening on that avenue. So let's talk about the Joy-Con controllers themselves. I love them. Absolutely, they were my most looked forward to aspect of this console, and I was not disappointed.
They were absolutely a lot better than I thought they were going to be. It's not that I didn't expect anything of them, but it's that they met my expectations and broke my sense of skepticism.
Yeah. I can say that they were definitely thinner than I was expecting.
Yes.
I don't know. I wasn't expecting anything in particular about how they would feel, but the matte finish was definitely a good choice. Some people are complaining about the thinness of the actual L and R buttons, but I feel that isn't much of a problem, at least for me.
No, I was going to say, as a guy with big hands, I have the authoritative voice on what something is or isn't small in gaming.
Yeah.
And if my big Truckosaurus hands can competently maneuver around these little
controllers, then I mean, people with regular sized hands shouldn't have much of a problem.
The triggers feel good, as far as I could tell. I didn't do too much of use them too much, but they feel all right. I feel there is potential for possibly a larger trigger add-on of some sort. Definitely useful depending on the game.
Yeah, I think there was an accessory kit that just kind of goes over the triggers, but also like extends them a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that would be useful, especially when the Switch starts getting more shooting-focused games.
That was it. My unbiased opinion of the whole shoulder buttons matter is, I feel like the bumpers are a little small, and that the triggers are the appropriate size for what would be shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
But I feel like, based off of everything I saw at that event just alone, that's not really a problem, because I feel like it's akin to the Z button from the GameCube controller, in that, yes, you will be using it, but not nearly as much as the triggers. So
Yeah.
I feel like they kind of wanted to have your triggers be buttons, but not fall to the same weakness that, say, the Vita had, which was, yes, there are triggers, but it's actually just this touchscreen on the back of the Vita.
Yeah. I didn't like the Vita's shoulder buttons that much either. And this is someone who likes the Vita talking.
That's just it. It's not even like it was a problem so much as I didn't have bumpers and triggers, or I didn't always need the bumpers, but like when I didn't have them, I noticed.
Exactly. The one thing that was not conveyed to us before we attended that I was happy to discover was the mechanism with which the Joy-Cons release from the tablet or the grip or wherever you attach them to. As you'll be seeing in these pictures, there are tiny little round buttons on the back of them towards the front that you will push in order to slide them free. And I can say that was pleasant and easy to use.
Yeah, I didn't get to check it out too much, just because a lot of the stuff I had was either using a Pro Controller or just sort of a... There was one time where I had it in a grip and the person's like, oh yeah, but these ones don't come out because this one's just kind of locked in place for the sake of the display model, and I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. So I only got to actually try the release mechanism once or twice, but it was surprisingly comfortable. It was a little bit to kind of, what angle do you go at it to get a comfortable slide off of, where I figured that once I was reaching around, like pinching it to take it off, okay, now I don't have the grip I need to slide it off, so you have to kind of be mindful of how you're doing it, but that's not too hard to get around.
Yeah. The one potential issue that I did find was actually sliding them back into a grip or the tablet, because
I thought that was way faster.
Well, maybe it was just me, but the issue I found is that when I'm sliding stuff in, there's not much room on the actual top of the Joy-Cons that isn't a button, so I feel there's potential to accidentally hit buttons you don't want to while you're sliding it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely something you have to develop your own technique for, and once you do, it won't be a problem.
I don't know how much that's going to matter if they implement something like, once you put it into the thing and then take it out, like, the game will pause and you'll have to press a button to get back to your game anyway.
From playing the Zelda Breath of the Wild demo at the event, I didn't really see anything in that vein, but
okay.
I mean, it's just as easy to actually press start on the controller and actually pause the game manually. Sure. So it's definitely something that you need to figure out how to do it, and once you can do it, it's not a problem. But the first couple times at most, it might be a concern.
That was the one thing I had about the hardware on the whole. No matter what scheme you were looking at, like how you went about tackling this thing, was I'm glad I went to this thing because it settled the learning curve.
Yeah.
There's just, once you have it in your hand, you don't know exactly what to do with it, but if you spend about 5 minutes with the thing, you'll have it in no time. It's really simple when you look at it at a grander scale. This
is definitely something that everyone will need to learn by doing rather than seeing or hearing.
Sure.
So the Joy-Cons themselves, I think the biggest worry that people had was using a single one as a standalone controller will feel to some people kind of small. While I will somewhat agree with that, I find that I had no problems using the analog stick or the buttons, even with my big thumbs.
Yeah. That was actually the whole day I was there. That was the only thing that I kind of stepped back and felt this brief second of disappointment that I thought this thing was perfect until I had a problem. And then once I had that problem, it was a super fast solution. Of which I'm speaking, of course, is like we were saying, we're guys with big hands. We kind of are the stress test for stuff like this for what is small. I found using the Joy-Con sideways, because of how the shoulder buttons are inlaid, if you have your fingers on the face buttons and you're trying to press a shoulder button, I found over the course of a single race, my hand started to cramp.
Yeah.
In which we took a step back from that and went, I've already solved this problem. I either need to put on the wrist strap so that the shoulder buttons are raised from the controller, or I need to get the steering wheel attachment which replaces the shoulder buttons with actual triggers on the back of the steering wheel.
Exactly.
But it just took 2 seconds for me to find the only fault in these controllers, well, only real fault as far as the line of comfort goes, was solved in a matter of 2 seconds with something you get in the box.
Yeah, and I feel like that was something that Nintendo was deliberate about, because I imagine that when some of their employees were testing the Joy-Cons, some of them were probably having the same problems we were, where pushing the inlaid SL and SR shoulder buttons on the Joy-Con was kind of problematic, and that's probably exactly why the straps come with the raised shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
Which, again, brilliant design. The Joy-Con grip. Knowing the size of the Joy-Cons, I was still blown away by how much smaller the Joy-Cons in the grip were as a complete controller. I was expecting them to be way huger, and it just goes to show how you can't really conceptualize something like this that's so different and unseen until you have it in your hands.
Absolutely. I thought this was one of the more comfortable control schemes offered.
Absolutely. When I'm playing games in TV mode, I will absolutely be using that control scheme wherever I can.
I used the Pro Controller first because I was really excited about trying the Pro Controller, because I'd heard negative things about it and that people were preferring the Joy-Con grip over it. I don't know how much I prefer one to the other, but on the whole, no, I like the Joy-Con grip with the Joy-Cons in it. It's super comfortable, and for, like I said, and I repeat this because of how important this is, something that comes right out of the box. People looked at the controller and went, that's stupid. I almost need to buy a Pro Controller if I want to get this controller feel. Absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
No, the Joy-Con grip is fantastic. It looks super weird. It's awkwardly comfortable in your hands in that it doesn't look like it should be as comfortable as it is because of how surprisingly asymmetric it looks.
Yeah. And I just love the meme people have made it look like a dog face.
Yes.
So the only other control scheme left to mention would be tabletop mode, where we would have one of each Joy-Con in our hands, and then the Switch would just rest on a surface with the kickstand. So I feel like...
Well, you can do that from your TV as well, but yes, just having the dual-wielding Joy-Cons.
Yeah. I feel like that works, especially for games that would probably require it, like ARMS, which we'll talk about in a bit.
I absolutely... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I couldn't believe it. Twin Joy-Cons is actually my favorite control scheme out of everything available. I didn't think it would be at all.
I don't think I got enough actual playtime with that mode to like it as much as you did, but I feel like once I play it, it probably will be my favorite as well, because I'm definitely the type who, if I'm feeling lazy while playing, I will absolutely keep my hands at my sides with the controllers in my hands if I can. That is absolutely something that I and a lot of people will do.
If there's something that requires you to have your, we'll call it a sense of security in you need to have this tight together control scheme, like having an actual controller, there are games that I could see like it calling for that if you need to kind of be more serious about it. But 9 times out of 10, it's just natural, comfortable positioning to just be sitting.
Yeah.
I can just have my hands in my lap and be playing. Like it's seamless in your, you know what you're doing despite the fact that your hands are nowhere near each other.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a style of gaming control that hasn't really been seen much in like mainstream gaming, and I'm sure everyone is just as excited for it as we are.
The Pro Controller.
Oh yes, I only got to play with it once or twice, but you have much more experience, and that's much more interesting to you. So why don't you tell us your thoughts on it?
I really liked it. Obviously, like I said, I didn't find a control scheme that didn't feel natural, that wasn't comfortable. It wasn't perfect. I thought it was a very comfortable in the hands controller. Take it how you will. The face buttons are very big.
Yeah, I did
Which
notice
I know
that.
sounds weird. They're big. You kind of, if you ever get a Switch or look at a Switch, grab any of your controllers and put it next to the Pro Controller for the Switch. They're huge.
I would say they're probably twice the size of the buttons on the Joy-Con.
Just about.
Definitely bigger than any other main controller for any system.
The analog sticks were very comfortable. I thought it was interesting that they didn't use like the same type of joystick as, say, the Wii U. No, they were very comfortable. The D-pad. The D-pad was my only gripe with the Pro Controller, and that's not because it's innately bad. It's because the one reason me personally could see myself looking into something like this is because a lot of pad players in the fighting game community are using D-pad. And my problem with it is, like the face buttons, the D-pad is huge. It's big, it's blocky, it's all together, and it's raised. So doing certain motions are very difficult because your finger almost gets stuck on the side of the D-pad.
I can imagine that.
I was trying. I dabble with pad when it comes to fighting games, so I was trying. I want to see, will this be comfortable for pad players? Doing something like a Hadouken was more problematic than it needed to be. And so I found myself just trying a move and then just saying screw it and going back to the analog stick, which isn't exactly a problem for me, but I know a lot of people have that problem. So is it a good D-pad? Sure, it's a very solid, very rigid D-pad, and it's going to do its job, but I think the fighting game community is missing out on an ideal D-pad, which is to say, I was surprised to find that people are disliking the face button thing they're doing with the Joy-Con, where the D-pad is just another set of face buttons. For fighting games, I think that makes a better D-pad than on the Pro Controller, because it's just buttons you're pressing in succession, so it's almost like a tiny hitbox instead of a D-pad.
Yeah, I can understand how that would seem.
Otherwise, I
definitely like the larger
a lot.
face buttons.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't really say too much about the Pro Controller because I'm not into the fighting game community like you are, but I imagine a lot of people will probably feel the same. Everyone can make their own judgments. The Pro Controller, on the whole, in terms of its design, is pretty standard for gaming controllers these days. The bumpers and shoulders kind of remind me a little bit of the X-Bone one, would you say?
I thought they were actually... I looked at them and I felt them and I kept not wanting to think it, but it kept coming into my head. They remind me of Nintendo quality Ouya shoulders.
Oh, wow. I haven't even thought about the Ouya in forever.
Well, exactly. I looked at them and I was like, God, those look strangely like the Ouya bumpers, and that bothers me. But then they never gave me that same clunky, cheap feedback that they did, so I was like, okay, good. This isn't as scary as it looks.
Okay. Considering Nintendo's sort of like stepping into the modern age on most of its ideologies on gaming, I'm kind of disappointed that Nintendo, in addition to all the ideas they took from other consoles, like having a paid online service and such, that they didn't sort of take, I think it was Microsoft who on one of their designs for the Xbox 360 gamepad added a modifiable D-pad. You know, the one where you rotate it and it switches between raised and not raised?
Yes.
I feel like that was a genius idea that more companies besides Microsoft should start using. And I was kind of hoping to see that in Nintendo, but...
There is. They're a little company you might have heard of called Hori.
And this is me not being into fighting games or third party.
And that's just it. And that's just it. While they do make most of third-party accessories you may or may not be familiar with, they're also one of the big players in FGC product, obviously.
Yeah.
Their D-pads typically come with the rotatable function, and I do believe I saw Hori had designed their own Pro controller. It's not called the Pro controller, but it might as well be. And I did see it did have that rotatable D-pad you're thinking of. So maybe in the future, third party is probably what some people are going to go for, just because it's so close to home.
Yeah. I can see them capitalizing on that familiar hardware in a new console setting. Let's talk about the games. We're going to start with the games that we both got to play and give our thoughts on those. So, obviously, the highlight of the event was playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was the only game that you had to actually get, like, an appointment to play. Of course, since we were one of the first in the door, we had no problem sitting down right away. But everyone else behind us might not have been so lucky.
I was going to say, I had a full sweep of the room, saw where Zelda was, and my third, fourth in-ass line walked over there.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I was second to be seated because I was like, I'm not dawdling and waiting for them to put me somewhere. I'm just going to walk over to Zelda and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure a lot of
Spoilers,
people
I
followed
got to
suit.
sit down and play.
Yeah. So, they gave us a 15-minute timed demo that started at the beginning of the game. And I should mention that I actually watched an interview with Gerard the Completionist talking to Miyamoto and Aonuma about the fact that about Breath being open world and how apparently you can, in fact, go right to the final boss and potentially beat the game in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure myself and a lot of players will be doing that immediately when we get the game, just for shits and giggles.
I thought it was so funny because they, as soon as they said that, I've started getting myself and Renning in the last year into speedrunning, and I just thought of how much that did for speedrunning. He told us you could, by design, beat this game in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'd just be interested to see how the speedrunning community takes that even further and has the game done in 5 minutes.
Oh, I can definitely see that becoming a hot topic for speedrunners.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to seeing that myself, actually, and I don't usually watch speedruns.
No, I was the first thing that popped in my head. They're like, yeah, you can beat the game in like 20 minutes. Oh, yeah?
We'll make it 5.
Yeah.
So, there's not really much that we can say about the game that everyone hasn't seen in the trailers. It does play just like we've seen from the streams and the videos. We played from the actual beginning of the game where you wake up with almost no clothes and you get the Sheikah tablet, or the Sheikah slate it's called, which is an ancient magical tablet.
Yeah. As you kind of learned more about the tablet while playing it, I was just like, this is stupid. It's wonderful, but it's stupid.
Yeah, I feel like it's more it's Zelda Skyrim, as everyone's been saying. It's more about the exploration. But of course, everyone's welcome to follow the story, which a lot of people will do. I decided to just go where the game told me for the extent of my demo, which led me to this tower. And of course, me being me, I immediately jumped off the tower and killed myself.
Yeah.
And that was as long as it took me to do the demo.
The 20-minute demo was definitely more of a mechanical demo of the game and more how to play and less what you're playing, which is good in and of itself, because now I have sort of a rounder idea of, for example, you were talking about like button mappings and how they're not quite what you would have done and how they're a little awkward maybe.
So I don't know if it's going to be changeable in the full game, but in the demo, So run was mapped to B, if I remember correctly. Attack was mapped to X, and jump was mapped to Y. I might have that backwards. But the way you had to, it made it so that the bottom button was run and the top button was jump, and I feel that was a little obstructive to play because running and jumping was a little problematic unless you like reached over the other buttons with your thumb or whatever. So I'm kind of hoping that the controls are remappable.
Yeah.
That's just me though. Maybe other people didn't have a problem. It's definitely something that, like everything else with the Switch, once you get it down, it won't be a problem. The weapons in this game, I'm actually happy with the variety that I saw so far. I got to play with a few different things. There was a sword, there was the axe, there's the club, there's the bow, all of which I had no problems with. The bow you aim with the gyro controls of the console itself, or with your with your controller. I had no problems using any of those. I'm actually looking forward to using archery in the full game. The weapons had a nice variety to them. The sword felt balanced. The axe felt slow and heavy like it should. I was able to come up with some neat combo attacks where I would run and jump and axe dive at an enemy, and it was significantly effective. The one thought that I had playing the game, and I expect this to not be a problem throughout the entirety of the game, but the fact that it was sunny and like just the art style in the game and the fact that it was sunny all the time in the demo, it almost felt like it was too bright in terms of the colors, and the where the sun and shadows intersected on characters was very obvious and very noticeable and almost a little bit into distracting. That's just me though. I don't know if anyone else.
I was gonna say I didn't really have that problem.
So what I'm hoping is there's going to be like different weather effects to the game, and I'm hoping they're not only in like plot scenes. Like if anyone who listens to Cast Ranger, we talk a lot about plot rain, where it only rains when something important's happening. I hope there are weather effects at random throughout the game to change it up, make it a different experience.
No, for sure.
They
kind of threw that around in stuff like Wind Waker.
Yeah, exactly. Another game that both of us got to try together actually was ARMS, which is the arena hybrid fighter shooter game, I guess you could call it.
Right.
We were both very happy with the demo that we played.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, fun is definitely the good word for it.
My basic summary of this game is, I think it's a great game. I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of stuff you're going to be able to do with it, and it's going to be a good time, and no one will not like this game. I do not feel comfortable paying full price for something like this. Not yet, anyway. If what they've shown me is an indication of this, I don't know how I feel about paying full price for a title like this.
Well, I have heard some chatter that it has a bunch of other features that we haven't seen yet, so...
I sure hope so. Because I like this game, and I want to be able to enjoy it more.
Yeah. Lane and I, my roommate, for those who don't know, are already agreed to go halvesies on that because we're both excited for that game. So for me, it's a non-concern, but I can
then I'll come over and play.
Yeah, take go. So the actual game itself was actually really, really fun. Holding the Joy-Cons in your hands with the controls facing inwards and the triggers sort of facing out felt very natural. It felt like you were just, holding your fists up. The Joy-Cons are small enough that they just disappear into your hands. The way they had the controls mapped was, and they probably talked about this when they revealed the game, was you tilt your hands in the direction you want to travel, like both of them tilt left to go left and such. And then L, the bumper, was to dash, and R was to jump. And you could combine those in different ways. Like you could run and then jump, or you could jump and air dash. And you could even combine those with different directional movements. And I found myself, as I was playing, learning to effectively combine those mechanics in order to dodge attacks. And I feel that opens the door for a lot of different fighting styles in the game. and I'm very happy about that.
Something that I was looking forward to, if on anything I've heard is true, is that you won't have to play this game with the motion controls. There will be button mappings for this game, which I feel is going to open up the game a lot more, because I feel truly that based on how you play with the motion controls, putting it to a controller, it's almost going to feel like two completely different games.
Exactly.
That I feel like just the way, like you said, it didn't take me until the second game where I was like punching and jumping, and I just kind of, right, I can grab you in the, like, I just, to remember that as many things as I want to do, there's more I can kind of combine it with things to do. There's just so many controls. It's more than just, say, punch out.
Yeah. And the fact that you can map all of the controls to the buttons for that playstyle, I'm actually kind of curious to see how effectively you can play the game that way, because part of, throwing punches is the arc of your fist and the trajectory of your attacks. So being able to, fight as effectively and with enough variety using non-motion controls seems like kind of a challenge to me.
But that's what I mean. I felt like there were times where I was trying to use the motion controls, and because of how I did something, the game was like, oh, you want to do this? And I'm just kind of like, that's not what I wanted to do at all. I feel like once it's like very mechanically put to a button, there's going to be like, well, I'm going to be able to do what I want when I want with no input errors.
I actually found that the game did exactly what I wanted to, but maybe that's just me. Like, I had a conscious thought, okay, I want my right fist to arc around from the side and go in towards the middle, and I did that with my hand, and the game did that.
Like I said, maybe that was just me and how that I did something incorrectly, we'll call it, and it just wasn't what I wanted. So it's just, maybe that's something you have to be conscious of, even if it's, like you said, something maybe a little more natural to you. But I found like even the slightest error will kind of push you over.
I was surprised how well I took to them, because motion controls I'm usually staunchly against, but I found myself acclimatizing to it pretty well, even considering how short of a time we played.
Leagues ahead of the Wii Motion Plus. Even
for sure.
I'll give it the Wii's latest iteration of its controller. It's just, they're not even in the same league. Yes, they're from completely different gens, but that's not the point. It's just how much effort and time and testing they must have done to make it what I can only imagine what they wanted the Wii to be.
Yeah.
But just, no, these controllers don't have to be motion controllers, and they can just be regular controllers, but boy, are they nice motion controllers.
Exactly. The one thing that I'm still curious about with the Joy-Cons is they showed off in that stream that they've got an IR camera in them, where they showed off that it detects rock, paper, scissors. I don't think they've shown us anything that uses those effectively yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing what those do.
1-2 switch.
Oh, right, for like the gun game and such?
Stuff like that, but yes.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot more potential there. But
for sure.
For ARMS, the other thing that I was really happy to discover, and this might have been in the trailer for it, but the fact that before each round, you have a set of 3 different hands that you can switch between, even individually between your 2 hands. Like, so there's like 3 options for your left hand and 3 options for your right hand. Which actually offered a really nice variety of accessories to your fighting style. I was playing the ninja character, so I had a chakram, like a normal boxing fist, and then something called the trident that actually split into 3 and arced in different directions when I punched. And you were using the mummy character, right? What did you have?
Yeah, Master Mummy. I had just this big bomb-looking fist, which was his default. He had one that was called the Homie, which was just a missile that I assumed had some sort of homing effect. And then there was the one it was called the Revolver, in which it fired 3 rapid hits in succession, but they all followed the same trajectory. So it was good for like smaller lesser damaged hits.
But I'm actually really excited for that because it's going to allow for a lot of different options and playing styles, even between the same character.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that there's going to be more customization than that. Like Lane and I have been talking about the fact that we hope that the characters themselves will be customizable to some extent. I'm not sure how much I'm actually expecting that to be a thing, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
It would definitely help to justify the higher price tag.
Yeah. Even just for any one person and not people that want to split the cost.
Yeah. We played in the standard arena, but when we watched some other people play, we saw a couple of different fighting arenas, including some with different levels. Like there was a temple that had stairs with like raised and lowered levels in the same fighting arena. So the stages are definitely looking like they offer a bit of variety. I'm not much else to talk about ARMS. I'm excited, looking forward to playing it. This is someone who usually doesn't play with motion controls, and I'm excited to play with motion controls.
Yeah, like I said, I still need to see a little more before I can justify the price tag, but I love what I see so far.
All right. We played a round of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. There's not really much we can say that hasn't been mentioned when we talked about the controllers, I think. It's pretty much the same Mario Kart.
It's very spoilers. It's Mario Kart 8 Plus.
Yeah. I did find that playing split screen in tabletop mode at least might be difficult for some because you're squinting at literally half a screen from however many feet away. But I feel like if you're out and about somewhere where you don't have access to the dock, it's effective enough to make do, but it's definitely not the optimal option.
No. I didn't think it was so bad, but I could definitely see it being a problem. I found there were some times where, like, if the stage was too dark, like, for example, there's that one strip we were on where it's just, you're under a canopy on wood, and then there's water. It's like everything kind of blends, and I don't know what's on the horizon because it all looks the same blend of colors.
Yeah.
Just sort of like, it's easy to kind of lose where you are on such a small area.
I would say if you're going to be playing that multiplayer with people, if you can at all, keep one player per Switch console. But if you're willing to make the sacrifice of squinting at half a screen, then it'll work well enough.
Yeah. It does its job. It's not unplayable, that's for sure.
Yeah. Bomberman R. We both played some.
It was Bomberman.
It's Bomberman, and I've never played Bomberman myself, but I, like most people, understand what the game is and basically how to play it.
It's any other iteration. It's any other iteration of Tetris. It's Bomberman with a twist.
Yeah, there's some extra stages and extra power-ups and 8-player
new
mode.
characters and yeah. On the whole, it's Bomberman. Did you like Bomberman? You might like this game.
Yeah. Not much else to say about that. So
no.
Those are pretty much the games that we both played. So now we're just going to each talk about the games we played individually. Sonic Mania was one of the games that I was looking forward to playing the most, and I really like it. The animation of the sprites for Sonic and Tails, I had to play Sonic and Tails, Knuckles wasn't an option in the demo, is really crisp. What they did is they took the Sonic 2 sprites and added new animations for them, like when they look up, when they look down. They added the standing dashing animation from Sonic CD where if you hold up and spin dash that way, they added that animation when you're running fast enough. Everything looks brighter than the other games. Sonic is a noticeably lighter color than in the other games. The drop dash technique that was advertised, I couldn't quite figure out myself. I feel like that needs to be more clearly instructed to players to get the hold of and understand the purpose of, because I just could not. And this is kind of a veteran Sonic player talking, but again, this is me playing the demo with almost no instruction on how to do it. They had two demo stages. One was Green Hill from Sonic 2, which is pretty much exactly as the stage was before, but with some updated graphics and newer enemies and such. But the highlight was definitely the new level Studiopolis. I can't remember the name of the second stage from Sonic CD. It's the one where Amy gets kidnapped by Metal Sonic, but it reminds me of that stage in terms of its color scheme, very pink and blue. The stage is gorgeous. The music is great. The obstacles in the level are really amusing to watch. There's like TV signal vans that you like jump into, and then you get teleported around the stage as a signal. There's popcorn machines that you get put into and popped up through. It's got some of those conveyor belt platforms from the Metropolis stage on Sonic 2, so that can be annoying to navigate. The stage had some of the Robotnik boxes, if you remember some games had, where if you opened up that box, you take damage. Obviously, being a veteran Sonic player, I didn't activate any of them, but I know that might be tricky for players who haven't played Sonic. The level in particular that I played had a decent amount of enemies appearing out of nowhere while you're navigating it, so it's definitely a stage that takes a couple of failures to get through successfully. But it was fun enough that I didn't mind. I did see some people struggling with it, but they were, not to sound condescending, but obviously not experienced Sonic players, so some people who haven't played Sonic might have some trouble with it, but I feel like it's got a healthy balance of new and old that'll keep veteran and new players interested in it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what sort of special stages this game is going to give us, because I haven't seen anything on that so far. That's pretty much it for Sonic Mania. Yeah.
I don't like 2D Sonic.
I do.
It's one of those things where I've given it 1,000,001 chances over the last decade and a half, and I just can never get to it. That I've decided it's just not for me. Speaking of things that are more of the same, Ultra Street Fighter 2, the final challengers. It's Street Fighter 2. It's Super Turbo, except we've got new updated graphics, which people are like, it's just HD remix, and it is, but I think they've taken it a little further and polished it up a bit more because they can. And we've added the two new characters, Evil Ryu and Violent Ken. And basically, people who don't know, that is Ryu with the power of the Satsu no Hado, and Ken with Psycho Power. They play pretty much like their standard Shoto counterparts. I didn't get to play too much, but based off of what I've seen, Ken has some teleportation abilities. His Hadoukens are a little bigger, a little meatier. As far as Evil Ryu goes, I didn't see any real differences to the playstyle, but that's because I didn't get the opportunity to really spend a lot of time with the character, but his super is changed to the Raging Demon instead of the super-powered Hadouken. Other than that, it looks great. It plays great. Like I said, I got to dabble with the two new characters. They seem like they'll be interesting. I was told that Violent Ken is meant to be tailored towards new players, either to the franchise, but they designed Violent Ken with beginners in mind. Other than that, it is an update to Super Turbo, and if you like Street Fighter 2, you will love this game. And if you're looking for something new out of Street Fighter 2, you probably won't find it here.
I did notice how crisp the graphics looked, and I believe I read somewhere that they were all hand-drawn for this game.
There is an option that you will be able to downscale the graphics so that they're more like the traditional graphical style of the Super Nintendo.
Oh, that's a neat feature.
Yes. What I didn't know / ask / I don't think they'd know because we haven't heard, is if you'll be able to use the classic graphicing style if you're playing as Evil Ryu or Violent Ken, or if you have to have that turned off to access those new characters.
That's a good thing to ask about.
It'd be interesting to see if they bothered to make old school sprites for the two characters. Actually, I forgot. The one thing I did like about this was the stage select was more akin to more recent Street Fighters in that you could actually see what stage you were playing as opposed to being expected to remember what stages for what country. And in as opposed to old iterations of Super Turbo and stuff, instead of having to know what button to press to get the color you want, a color select option appears as you select your character.
That's always a great feature to have. I know
And
too many
again,
fighting games that don't have that.
That's more of an old school fighter thing that like in HD Remix never got touched on. But for Ultra, they definitely thought about it and made it more like modern fighters, where as soon as you selected your character, okay, what color do you want them to be? I really liked it's little things like that that streamline my experience with it.
Alright, so the next game that I played by myself was Fast RMX, which for a lot of people will remind them of F-Zero X, and with good reason. I myself have also played on PC and on the Vive another similar game called Redout, which a lot of people will say was also inspired by F-Zero X, and it definitely feels halfway between those two games. For those who have played Redout, I would say Fast RMX's courses are a lot longer / less tight. Like, if you play Redout, there's a lot of turning and loops and such, and they all happen very quickly. Whereas with Fast, it took a lot longer for them. Like, there's a lot more straightaways, a lot more. You're allowed to enjoy the scenery a lot more before worrying about which direction you're going next. Instead of requiring you to go on the specialized areas of the track to charge up like F-Zero X, what Fast has is a mechanic where your engine and lights on your ship switch between blue and yellow. Sometimes it was blue and red, depending on the course. And there's a button, it's X on the controller, I believe, to switch between those two engine modes. I don't know what the actual term for it is. But if you had your engine in the correct color, when you hit either these colored energy strips or a little poof of energy coming off the road, you would be able to get boosted up along the energy strips, or if you hit the blast of energy, you do a jump. Conversely, if your engine was in the wrong color and you hit one of these areas, your ship would take a hit and it would slow you down. But I feel like it was easy enough to just... There was a part of the track design and why it's better than Redout's more tight design was you're able to see more of the track coming in advance, whereas with Redout, that so much of the track loops so quick that you aren't able to see much of it ahead. So I would say that it's a step up from Redout in that direction. I can't really give too much commentary on comparing it to F-Zero X because I haven't played too much of it, but it's definitely people who are annoyed by having to charge your engine on those pads and worrying about having your ship destroyed. You can put those fears to rest, because as far as the demo went, Fast RMX doesn't have those mechanics or a health meter or a fuel for your ship or anything like that. So you can pretty much just race worry-free as long as you're adept at switching your engine color and hitting the boost. And aside from the actual boost strips, there were actually little glowing energy bits that you pick up along the track to activate your manual boost, which was activated with, if I remember right, I believe it was the trigger. It could have been one of the buttons. I might be remembering that wrong. But it felt pretty intuitive with the control scheme. I don't know if controls are remappable, but I imagine in the full game they would be. I played a couple courses and had pretty much no problems. I've played my share of racing games, so I believe I did well, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if I'm actually going to buy it, because I feel like I already have enough games on the Switch to keep me busy for a while, and I'm not exactly looking for a second racer in addition to Mario Kart, if you know what I mean. But if you're looking for a racer on the Switch and you're not interested in rebuying Mario Kart, I feel like Fast RMX can definitely scratch that itch. Especially if you're going to be playing multiplayer with other people, because, as we all know, racers are better with other people.
Okay, so the next game I got to play was Splatoon 2, which, like, as much as I was excited to play that one, actually, that was the game I was most excited to play there. I had to knock Zelda and Street Fighter out first before playing this game, but I'm really glad I got to play it. Um, and is honestly, just based off of what I've seen, it's as more of the same as Call of Duty, but because it is still a new, fresh IP, there was a little bit of stuff that was new that kind of made it feel more fresh. Some of which is new secondary items that I actually didn't get to test at all, for whatever reason. There were the new super abilities, and there's a new weapon type, the dual splatters. We got to play a practice round and then 2 actual games. We have footage of that you'll be able to see. The first game I played with the roller, and the second game I played with the dual splatters. I didn't get to try the ability they gave me with the roller, but that was the ground pound ability. I did get to see it though, and it looks really effective and really good. It's just basic, simple. You jump up, slam into the ground, you get paint everywhere. It kills whoever gets blasted by the paint. The dual splatters were a little interesting because it didn't really feel like there were 2 guns involved so much as it just felt like you had a rapid fire pistol with a wider firing range. I did get to try the super ability for that, which was the jetpack, which was surprisingly underwhelming. The jetpack itself, as you very slowly fly through the air, covers the map in ink wherever it is you're flying over, as well as the ability to let you rapid fire rain down upon your opponents and the below field.
So it pretty much just makes you Farah.
Yes. And then ends with a very nerfed version of the super jump, blows up the jetpack, and you fly off somewhere onto the field to resume play. I think the dual splatters are going to be one of those things where I'm going to have to see how they evolve the weapon typing with different weapons, and how that weapon type isn't as bad as that one gun might have made it seem. The other thing, I didn't really get to get the same feel I wanted, because if you played on the tablet like I did, you were forced to use the gyro controls, which I have no idea how anybody does that. It was really awkward and clunky, and I couldn't get used to it, and it hindered my ability to properly play the game. But what I did get to try, which was,
I know Lane swears by the gyro controls.
Yes. Was playing Splatoon on the as a tablet mode with the Joy-Cons chucked onto the side of the screen and the thing in its handheld mode. Very comfortable. I didn't feel like I was missing anything on the screen. One thing we didn't really note that either you know or you don't is the screen is 6.5 inches, which, depending on the game, feels like more than it is, sort of thing. A game like Splatoon, I didn't have any problems with missing things on the screen or not being able to see something on the screen, whereas I felt I had like a little bit of that kind of problem with Breath of the Wild, where I felt like because of how vast the world was, I might have been missing something on this smaller screen. Again, not that it renders it...
It's definitely smaller than I was expecting, which kind of, in a way, is good and bad depending on what you're focusing on. It definitely will make carrying it around not so much of a pain.
Yeah, the point is, it's portable and it works. I think 6.5 was as small as they could get it, while still being very comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I think they didn't want to make it too big and they didn't want to shortchange anyone. And I think they found that 6.5 was the sweet spot. Because even 7 might have been a little too big.
Yeah. When did you talk about the new super jump mechanics?
Oh, yeah, that was the thing I didn't really care for. I don't know how it works on TV mode if you're playing with, say, a Pro controller. But for this, you have to press a button to pull up your map. So it blocks your screen, and there's a map of the area opens up on your screen instead. You then have to press the D-pad to select to which player you would like to jump to, and then press another button to actually launch you to the person. I tried using it twice and then didn't use it because I felt like learning it on the fly was more complicated than it needed to be. I'm sure once you get used to it, it won't be a problem and it'll feel like second nature. It was the one thing that I missed from the Wii U, which was just as simple as push and I'm off. I felt like they turned a 3-step action into a 1-step action into a 3-step action. And not only do I not get to see what's going on while I'm looking at the map, but I now have to do this whole series of inputs to figure out where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was especially confusing if I didn't really know what I was looking at, even with the map open. So, like I said, it took a little bit of getting used to, but I was just totally caught off guard by the whole, so did they get rid of Super Jump? Oh no, this is Super Jump. What? Okay. Try it again. No, I'm just wasting time and teleporting myself back to the spawn point.
Unfortunately, this is kind of the one thing where it becomes obvious that the switch from a 2-screen system back to a 1-screen system becomes a noticeable object.
If that is the only problem with Splatoon 2, then I have no problems with Splatoon 2. Yeah. I never used Super Jump a hell of a lot to begin with, but like I said, I will eventually get used to it, that it will stop being a problem. It was just very off-putting at first.
Yeah, I can see a lot of players echoing the same situation where they'll be frustrated with it at first, but they'll adapt.
Sure.
What I should say is I don't see anyone canceling their pre-order because of that.
No, absolutely not. If you like Splatoon, you'll love this game. If you've never played Splatoon before, this is a fantastic place to start.
Exactly, which means you won't have any of the problems acclimatizing to the changes. Yeah, so those are pretty much the games that we had a decent sit-down with. They did have some other games there that we saw being played but didn't necessarily get to actually have a proper sit-down with. The most important of which being 1-2 Switch, which is the tech demo Wii Sports Nintendo Land of the Switch console. It's pretty much just a way to show off the features of the Joy-Cons, which it comes with a bunch of different WarioWare-like minigames from my experience.
Yeah.
I took some video. It was just things like, a cowboy shootout like the trailer, or milk a cow, or, different mini games like that. So I can completely understand if people choose to pass up on that title because it is just a Joy-Con tech demo.
Yeah. That was the thing I noticed about 1-2 Switch. I was like, that's a really stupid game, but I mean, like, I'll look forward to playing it because I'm always down to try the tech demo that's bundled with the system. What? No, this is a full release title. What? No, you can keep that. I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
That was the very, blunt force reaction I had to it. Was like, what? You're asking me to pay for Wii Sports for Nintendo Land? I'm not paying for that. That comes with the system.
Yeah, I feel like that was probably a misstep. I mean, if they're so hyped to show off the Joy-Cons and the functions, bundling 1-2 Switch would have been the perfect way to do it.
The problem is, and the way I think they should have done it, was it's not in the Switch because the Switch is already above value for what you're getting for it.
Yeah, it does come with a lot. There's no mistake.
It comes with a ton, and everything it comes with is expensive. And if it's not expensive where you live, it's because you're Canadian and the dollar is garbage. The point being, the Switch comes with more than enough to get your money's worth. What I do think they should have done was made it a reduced cost title, in which it was more of a $55 title instead of a $79 title.
Or even maybe included it with like a different starter bundle, Like, like a slightly enhanced Switch package that comes with it?
Sure, but just something that expressed some sort of reason for me to get it, as
Yeah.
opposed to just giving it to me or charging me full price for it. No, there's definitely no way I'll be buying 1-2 Switch.
Yeah, I probably won't either. The next game that we saw played throughout the event, not only just in its own booth but up on stage, was Just Dance, which I'm kind of sad is one of the very few launch day games.
It's because they are so used to making this game for the Wii, they had that shit on lock from day one.
Yeah, no, I
We're
completely understand. I completely
Making
understand
a
the
Switch
fact
copy of the game was not a problem.
Exactly. I completely understand why it's a launch day title, because that's always been one of their niche markets. But a lot of, more avid, I don't want to say more serious gamers like us have to have that as a launch day game instead of potentially something else. It is what it is. It's got more accurate controls or like motion detection because of the Joy-Cons from what I saw. If you like those games, it'll be fun. Get it. I don't see any reason to stop you. I can't exactly judge any flaws on those games because I don't play them.
That's just it. Do you like Just Dance? This is Just Dance.
If you have a Switch and you like Just Dance, buy it. Or not.
Or not. I don't care. It's Just Dance.
Do it or don't. I don't care. Also, a game that was there. We wanted to play it, but we ran out of time because it was only a 2-hour preview. Snipperclips. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
That was the one title that I was like, it was the last thing on my list, but it was on my list.
Yeah. From what I can tell, I haven't really paid too much attention to it, but it's a game where you are two living pieces of paper, then you have to cut pieces of each other to solve puzzles. I don't really know too much about it.
No, that's it. It sounds weird to say it out loud, but that's it.
Oh, okay. If you have someone you're good friends with and want to try tackling something together, I suppose it could be a good time.
I could see myself buying that if it's like one of the cheapy indie eShop titles.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go so far as to extend that to a full release title treatment.
Yeah. If it is another full $90 release, definite no for me. If it's like $20 or less and someone else wants to play it, maybe.
Right?
And the last game that you were playing, literally as the time ran out, was you got a little 2-minute sample of Disgaea 5.
I got a 2-minute sample of Disgaea 5. It was Disgaea. I mean, it's Disgaea 5. The game's out. You know what I mean? Just sort of.
It's just a port.
It felt as comfortable as it needed to. It was really more for me to have the opportunity to try kind of the dual wielding control scheme, which was very comfortable. My problem I had with Disgaea 5, which I don't know if it was the game or the Joy-Con, I felt as I was trying to navigate the grid, I was sliding around a lot, like it was being a little too sensitive.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a game design thing or if that's a Joy-Con thing. I'd like to think it's a game design thing because I didn't have that problem with any other game, but most of the games I played had a static menu as opposed to like a flowing cursor.
Yeah, it could just be a case of the game's software dead zone for the controller was smaller than other games.
Probably. Either way, I wouldn't get it, but I mean, I don't plan on getting Disgaea 5 anyway. But
if you want
Disgaea 5.
If you want a tactical game on the Switch to hold you over until Fire Emblems come out,
it's Disgaea 5. If you like Disgaea, please pick it up.
Yeah. So that was pretty much the extent of the games that were on display at the event. I don't know if we wanted to maybe talk about other games besides those that we're looking forward to.
I mean, I don't really know what other games there are outside of Mario.
There's Fire Emblem Warriors.
Oh, I guess there is Fire Emblem, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a bunch of Fire Emblems.
I'll obviously buy Fire Emblem Switch, whatever it is, whenever it comes out next year. 2018. Fire
Yeah.
Emblem for the Switch.
But we do know Fire Emblem Warriors, which is a Fire Emblem version of Musou Dynasty Warriors, is coming out, which I'm very excited for.
Here's my thing about Warriors, and I'm not picky, so here's the deal. It's Fire Emblem Warriors, made by the team that made Hyrule Warriors. As a person who bought both iterations of that game, that already excites me a lot. Now, what they need to do, the only thing they need to do, is put Hector in the game, and I've pre-ordered it before it's a pre-orderable item.
Exactly.
Just if they put Hector in the game, it's an auto purchase. It's a wrap. It's done, because Hyrule Warriors was amazing as just this team working on a Zelda Dynasty Warriors. But if they give it the same treatment, I'm very excited for this game.
Yeah. And for me, it's sort of the same issue where I'm looking forward to seeing what characters they choose to include. Hector, definite. There's a lot of Fire Emblem characters that I'd love to be playing in an action setting like that. The one thing I'm hopeful for, I sincerely doubt it's going to happen, but one thing I would love to happen is for there to be, like in the recent actual Fire Emblems, a customizable avatar character of sorts. Because when I play RPGs and action games and such, I like to have a character that I can make my own. So in addition to playing as characters I know and love, I would love to have a customizable avatar character. Not to say that if they didn't choose to include that, it wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. I would still buy it, even if they didn't have the avatar character in it, but it's something that I would very much love to have.
And that's the tricky part with things like the avatar characters from Fates and or was it Awakening?
Yeah.
Yes. Is there are stock versions of them, but like I feel like that kind of, I don't know, I've just never really cared for the stock versions of these characters, that I feel like it kind of robs it of the integrity of
You're referring to
the whole.
the canon versions of Robin and Corrin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there going to be male and female? Probably. All it is going to be a reskin. But I feel like just having the default kind of robs the character of its integrity, of just kind of, I would play as Robin, but like I like my Robin.
Yeah.
So
That's the
I
one
feel like
thing
I don't.
that-
It's not the same level of attachment to the character that I now no longer care about Corrin.
And I feel like that was the same disconnect that happened when they added them to Smash, because, like, yes, it's that character, but it's the default version in a couple of different colors.
Yeah.
So, hopeful, probably buying, looking forward to more. Any other Switch games that were announced that we're looking forward to?
Not announced, but I'm excited about the rumored Pokemon Stars.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I really hope that happens.
I don't know what they could add or what they're going to add or how it's going to work exactly, but no, I'm very excited for this companion game to Gen 7.
Yeah, and our first console Pokemon since XD.
Yeah, except this time it's being developed by Game Freak.
Exactly.
Because they said, well, we're just going to develop a mobile game, but on this thing that could chuck onto a TV.
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like, why they're doing it for the first time, because it's not really out of their comfort zone. Yeah. Well, because Pokemon is supposed to be a mobile game. Well, like I mean, it still is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
That's pretty much it for games. So, closing thoughts on the Switch. This is kind of hypocritical for me to say, considering I haven't used it in forever, but I'm kind of sad that Street Pass isn't going to be a thing anymore.
I'm not. Good riddance. I don't care at all. I'm obviously abolishing friend codes. I think people were concerned because the 3DS still uses them, but we haven't had friend codes since the Wii. Or sorry, the Wii U.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm totally okay with the abolishing of friend codes. I feel like Nintendo's going to start using their Nintendo Network ID system the way that they should have been using, the last 10 years. where
Yeah.
everyone's going to have their username attached to their account, and that's how you add people, which is, what
Yeah.
Sony and Microsoft have been doing forever. So
For
I'm totally
sure.
okay with that. The Miiverse, conversely, I'm not sad to see go. I didn't use it myself at all.
I didn't use it.
I can
The
understand
most I
that
used,
some people
the
will be
most I
sad.
used the Miiverse was the stage in Smash Bros.
Exactly. And it'll still be there if anyone goes back to it, which is kind of brings up the question of when they do port Switch to the Smash, how that stage is going to work.
We've removed it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
Or it's just synced to the Wii U's. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not even a discussion yet. That said, we can talk about Smash for Switch. I think it's a definite possibility. I think it should happen. Will it?
I don't think it
Can't
should
say.
happen.
I would like to
I've
see it
got
on
a-
the Switch, but this is me
I've got
speaking
a-
as a casual player.
I think there needs to be a Smash for the Switch. I don't want Smash for the Switch. You know what I mean?
You want a new Smash game, not a port.
I want Smash 5 eventually. I don't need Smash 4 version 3 again now. I can wait. I'm awaiting the inevitable Switch title. I do not need them to port the Wii U version like everyone seems to want.
Yeah, I do remember some chatter that Masahiro Sakurai that Smash 4 was going to be his last title. I don't know if that is still true or if maybe he's changed his mind, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess that's pretty much it. This is already pretty long.
I was going to say, final thoughts? I've already bought it.
Yeah, we've already put down our pre-orders. Mine is already over half paid because I traded in my Wii U and all my Wii U games and Pokemon X now that Bank updated.
Mine's been paid off. No, I've been ready for this thing. I just needed this thing to show me that I could chill the fuck out and maybe not be so worried about any sort of negative ideas I had about the thing, because this whole thing just totally shattered my expectations of what it could be versus what it is.
Yeah, and
I'm just totally ready for March 3rd.
Yeah, exactly. That was the reason to go to this. It wasn't specifically to try out any one game or any of the games. It was just to get the hardware in our hands, see how it feels, and see how we're going to be gaming for the next while. And I was impressed, pleasantly surprised in some cases. As with anything, a couple of flaws, but nothing that isn't mitigatable.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to that. I hope we convinced a couple of you that are on the fence. And we'll see what happens on launch day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.